Question 14. Would you rather be extremely successful professionally and have a tolerable yet unexciting private life, or have an extremely happy private life, but only a tolerable and uninspiring professional life? That's quite a long question, and there's quite a long follow-up as well. Since so many people place great emphasis on a happy private life, why do people often wind up putting more energy into their professional lives? If you feel your private life is more important to you, do your priorities support this? Are you simply unwilling to admit that work is more important? Do you use it as a substitute? Do you hope professional success will somehow magically lead to personal happiness? I don't think this question was really aimed at me. The thing is that I don't have any work-private life divide at all. I'm a YouTuber. It's not as though I have my family life at home with my wife and my kids and I wave goodbye to them and then I commute to work and then I have this completely separate life that my wife knows almost nothing about, and then I do stuff there and then I come home and leave all that baggage of work behind. I just dump the briefcase by the door and, hey kids, what have you been doing today? And you know, I start living another life. That's not me at all. I'm a YouTuber. My work is, I suppose, mainly video editing, and the computer that I do that at is all of 2 paces away from my bed. So sometimes I literally get up, walk 2 paces, and then I'm at work. And here I am in my private front room. Only it's sort of not private, is it? Because it's also my work front room, and you know, you're seeing it. This is part of my professional life. This is what I do now. I'm a YouTuber. People often ask me, "What do you actually do, Lloyd?" Well, now it's this. This is what I do now. YouTube has taken over my life. So there is no, for me, there is no work home divide at all. But to answer this question in the way that I suppose it's meant to be answered, I have to imagine that I do have this work home life divide. Well, there is a lawyer's answer to this question, which is a bit of a cheat, but I'll give you it. It says here, would you rather be extremely successful professionally and have a tolerable yet blah blah blah, or have an extremely happy private life and only a tolerable blah blah blah? So it's pitching successful tolerable against happy tolerable, in which case it's easy, isn't it? You go for happy, because why would you want to be successful? The only reason to want to be successful is to think that it would make you happy. So we all know, don't we, that success doesn't necessarily make you happy, whereas happiness definitely makes you happy. So yes, I would pick happiness over success, but that's not very difficult, is it, to come up with that conclusion? And as I say, it's a bit of a lawyer's answer to the question. As for the follow-ups, well, why do people often wind up putting more energy into their professional lives? Well, I think I can give you 2 reasons. One, it's because they can. If you've got what I would call a career, as opposed to a job, working the checkout at a supermarket, that's a job, I would say. That's not really a career. But if you've got the sort of job that you could describe reasonably as a career, then you can always put more into it. You can always risk more, put in more hours, come up with more ideas and network more and so forth. You can always put more into a career than you're putting, and this might then further your career, which would lead to greater success and possibly happiness. Whereas being happier at home, okay, I know, I'll be happier at home. How do you do that then? Well, I suppose you could work harder at your marriage or something, but there are only so many flowers you can buy your wife before she becomes rather suspicious. So I think it's because they know how to. They can think of ways to put more into their job, whereas thinking of ways to put more into your home life is not so easy. Yes, you can be, I suppose, a more and more hands-on parent, although I'm not actually convinced that being a very hands-on parent is good for kids. That social experiment is still running. And another reason is that men, particularly, not exclusively men, but particularly men, about 20% of women behave this way as well, they're following instincts. They sacrifice their home life by putting loads and loads of energy into successful professional lives because they've inherited the genes of their ancestors, their hunter-gatherer ancestors. Now, those hunter-gatherers who were extremely successful tended to pass on more genes. And so if you can be really, really successful, all the women will think you're great and will want you to bonk them, and you'll spread your genes around more, and so you'll father more children, etc., etc. That doesn't really work so well anymore. That might have worked for hunter-gatherers, but in the modern world, that success doesn't translate to passing on more genes. In fact, these days, it seems almost the reverse is the case. So So that's another reason. You're following instincts, but of course instincts are not evolved to make us happy, they're evolved to make us pass on genes. So not only might it make us less happy, it actually these days might cause us to pass on fewer genes. Working extremely hard in education, for instance, makes you, if anything, less fertile. So if you feel your private life is more important to you, do your priorities support this? Well, that's definitely not applicable to me because, as I say, I don't really have a work-home divide. Are you willing... simply unwilling to admit that work is more important? Are you simply unwilling to admit? Who would answer that? Yes, I'm unwilling to admit that. That's not a logical, it's a daft question because no one would ever say yes to that question. Simply, do you hope your professional success will somehow magically lead to personal happiness? Again, only an insane person would answer yes to that. Yes, I believe that professional success will somehow magically lead to personal happiness. So I don't think I have to answer that particular question on the grounds that it's so badly phrased as to be stupid. Obviously, professional success doesn't lead magically to happiness, but it could though. And I think really ultimately this question is unanswerable because it depends so much on who you are and what your situation is. You could be, for instance, an internationally famous rock star who lives on his own. So what is having a successful private life? Cooking a really good omelette for yourself? Watching a nice bit of telly? Finding something good on? That doesn't mean much. And then you could, the next day, fly out to some exotic place the other side of the world, get adored by 50,000 crowds in a stadium, and eat some fantastic food and perhaps get on terribly well with some groupies. And you think, well, professionally, that was wonderful. And you fly back to your flat. So for you, yeah, definitely stick all your points into your career if you want to be happy. But then again, you might be a stay-at-home mum bringing up a huge brood of kids whom you all love. You love them all and you find them adorable and you find that life completely fulfilling, and you don't have a professional life at all. You never have a career. That is your life, and it works for an awful lot of people. I can think of some people I know who just adore being a mum. Yes, it depends so much on who you are and your personal situation that well, how can I conclude then? There you go. There are lots of routes to happiness.